What exactly makes a sin a sin? In many cases, it's probably pretty clear why a sin is a bad thing. Murdering someone, stealing something that belongs to someone else, or telling someone a lie for your own selfish reasons are examples where it's obvious these are bad things to do. Most of us know these are just morally wrong things to do. Doing something that harms another person in some way is just something we know is wrong to do. But what about other sins where it's not as obvious what is morally wrong with doing it? I won't highlight any specific sin that comes to mind, but for a random example of a commandment from the Torah, how about Leviticus 19:19 that says, "Do not plant diverse seeds together"? Like, what's so bad about that? Maybe it's not a good idea, but is it really morally wrong to plant different seeds together? Seems like less of a law and more of just a recommendation to me, but you get the idea. You can think of any type of sin you want here, where maybe it doesn't seem like it would be overtly morally wrong to commit the sin. Just think of your own example. The thing is, God creates ordered systems. This is what the beginning of Genesis describes. The world is in an unordered chaos, and God proceeds to create order and assign functions to different things. He separated the waters and created dry ground and called the dry ground the land and the waters the sea. He set the sun to govern the day and the moon to govern the night. You probably already know the story, though. What God is creating here is an ordered system. He is assigning purpose and functions to different parts of the system. Everything in the creation has its function or purpose. A sin is something that disrupts that ordered system. Think of a watch, one with gears in it. The watch is made up of an ordered system of gears on the inside. If one of those gears gets worn out, that disrupts the system, and the watch stops working. The key difference between the gear in the watch and a person is that the gear in the watch doesn't have free will. It's just a piece of metal that was assigned a function. It didn't have a choice in the matter. It just always does what it does until it gets worn out and can no longer do its assigned function. A person, on the other hand, does have free will. A person can choose what they do. God set up an ordered system, but a sin is doing something that disrupts the ordered system. A sin is choosing to do something that is not an intended function in the ordered system, or doing something that disrupts the intended function in the ordered system. I think if you struggle with figuring out what is wrong about a particular sin, this is how you have to think about it. Is it going against the designed function, whatever that may be, in an ordered system? So in the example earlier about not planting diverse seeds together, is that really morally wrong? I mean, probably not. It's certainly not as bad as intentionally harming another person. But you don't really want seeds of different crops growing together, do you? They'd get in each other's way. You wouldn't plant an apple tree in the same spot you plant potatoes. So you plant different kinds of seeds in different spots so they can grow the way they are supposed to unhindered by some other kind of crop. That's the system for planting crops. It just works out better that way. Sin isn't just something Adam and Eve and their descendants did. There were also fallen angels who sinned. The Bible says angels are immortal beings and they do not marry. They were not intended to marry and they were not intended to have children. The sin of the fallen angels was taking on human wives and having children with them. They left their intended dwelling place in heaven and committed the sin with human females who were not intended for them in God's ordered system. We might not know exactly how the ordered system in heaven is supposed to work, but we know the fallen angels left that ordered system and brought disorder to the ordered system on earth. Because of that, they lost their immortality and died like men. I think the things that God commanded, he did so because it was how the system he created would work best. I'd be surprised if someone went to hell just because they did a poor job of farming and planted different kinds of seeds together. But it's generally better if you don't do that. The system of farming just works better when you grow different kinds of crops separately from each other. Some things in the ordered system can only do what they are intended to do in the ordered system, like the gear in the watch I described earlier. It just always does what it is supposed to do. It can't choose not to. It doesn't have a choice. It doesn't even know that it doesn't have a choice. It's just a piece of metal. The sun and the moon have their purpose in the ordered system. The sun provides light and the moon revolves around the planet and reflects some light back at night, and also has an effect on the tides of the oceans. The sun and moon always do what they do. People, on the other hand, have free will. People have their role in the system. Everyone has their purpose in life. Sometimes people ask the question, what is the purpose of life? I don't know that there is just one single answer to that question. I think you have to split it into two categories: a purpose for humanity and an individual's purpose. Going back to the Bible, the original purpose of Adam and Eve, who were made in the image of God, were to represent God on earth and take care of the Garden of Eden. I guess if you were going to extend that out to the rest of humanity, you could say our purpose is to represent God and take care of the earth. I also think creating life is a purpose for humanity, a purpose also extended to the animals of the earth. Remember those fallen angels? They weren't supposed to marry and create new life. That was not their purpose. But it is a purpose for humans, broadly speaking anyway. It's a purpose for the whole of humanity, but maybe not every single individual. There are some people who may be unable to have children for some medical reason, but that doesn't mean they don't have an individual purpose to fulfill. Which brings me to the point of, what is a person's individual purpose for life? Well, I can't necessarily answer that for you if you don't already know. That's one of those things you generally have to figure out yourself. But I would say at the most basic level, an individual's purpose in life is simply effort and charity. Don't be lazy. Do something. That's how the ordered system works. You do something. Not everyone does the same thing, but you should make an effort to do something. And you should try to help others along the way. That's the charity part. And by charity, I just mean helping others, not necessarily donating money to charity, though that would obviously be included in helping others category as well. So unlike the gear and the watch, or the sun and the moon, we have a choice of how we behave in the system. I suppose God could have created everything like the gear and the watch, gave everything a purpose and no choice to do anything other than its assigned purpose. If we had been created that way, I guess we would still all be doing our assigned functions in the system, with no choice not to, and not even aware we didn't have a choice. Perhaps that would have been too boring, because God didn't create everything in the system that way. He created us to have free will, which gives us choices and makes us aware that we have choices. I think it's God's desire that we make the right choices to keep the system in order. Those are my thoughts on that. Thanks for listening.